Michiganders can be a superstitious bunch. We find all sorts of reasons to explain the world around us, sometimes pulling from science, sometimes tradition, and sometimes from our imaginations. What happens when we can't readily explain our experiences, and what happens when a ghost story gets out of hand? Do these legends stem entirely from fantasy, or are people seeing things no one can truly explain? I'm Krista K. Coburn.
And I'm Kay Gray.
Welcome to Haunted Mitten. Imagine it's near sunset. You're in the woods, it's quiet, you're surrounded by tall trees on all sides but one. In front of you is a metal barrier that discourages you from traveling down a clear dirt path that stretches into the distance. And where that path meets the horizon, you see it. A light flickers to life. Welcome to the Paulding Light.
The Paulding Light, also known as the Lights of Paulding or the Dog Meadow Light, is located in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan between Paulding and Watersmeet off US 45 on Robbins Pond Road / Old US 45. Stories first began circulating in the 1960s. According to Wikipedia, the first recorded sighting of the Paulding Light was in 1966 when a group of teenagers reported the light to a local sheriff. Since then, a number of other individuals have reported seeing the light, which is said to appear nearly every night at the site.
We actually visited the Paulding Light in 2011. Bring bug spray and make sure you don't need a restroom because there is not a toilet around for miles. I peed twice in those woods. And we were not alone either. A lot of people joined us as the evening went on.
It was awesome. We took a trip up to the UP to do a 4-day whirlwind tour of all the weird crap
Yes.
in the UP. The Paulding Light being the creme de la creme of our time up there.
Yeah, sort of the highlight, I guess.
Yeah.
It was definitely a must stop for us.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Man, what was it? 10 hours of driving.
Yeah, straight from Ann Arbor to Houghton, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then making sure we got to the Paulding Light by sunset.
Mm-hmm.
Staying there for hours upon hours. I totally lost track of time. And then having to trudge back to our very strange motel.
Yes. We had some wonderful places to stay up there.
Oh, we had some weird ones, that's for sure.
It was great.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So 1960s. So let's start with, I've been going through the YouTube lists and lists and lists of the Paulding Light. And half of them
there's a lot of, more than anything we've done, there's a lot of YouTube on this.
Oh, yeah. And half of them are like, look at this mystery of this Paulding Light. And half of them are like, those people are stupid. Here it is, debunked.
Right.
And it's really, this is like a contentious issue for Michiganders.
It does, yeah, it does seem to be, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I watched a number of them. Some were doing like ghost investigations. Some were debunking it with their car headlights. One guy flew a drone over the whole trail, which I thought was really cool. It gave me like a better perspective.
Oh, I'd like to see that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then one was this dude debunking from basically armchair debunking.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was kind of a jerk about it. So.
Yeah, a lot of people are jerks about it.
Yeah. But I don't know why. Why?
Yeah, I don't know why people are so passionate about this.
I mean, I think I'm passionate in that this is really cool. And if we don't know what it is, that's awesome. This is a real life mystery that you can come see basically every night.
Yeah.
And my dog will be barking throughout most of this. And with you can see it almost every night, super regular and reliable. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. Why do you have to rat on the people that want it to be a mystery?
And one of the things too is what it says, the first group was with teenagers to report the light.
Yeah.
Well, the light that they were reporting was not necessarily what people are seeing and debunking today, which I like because I think it's worth going and just listening to people's stories because it was a lot of like older folks, like people 20, 30 years older than us.
Yeah, we were probably the youngest people there that night.
Yeah, yeah, which I was surprised. For one, I was surprised there were so many people because
Right.
we were the first to arrive, and then a crowd came afterwards.
And then a tour bus came.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the place to hang out. You bring some drinks, you hang out, you chat. I mean, I was really blown away by that. Uh,
Yeah.
and some of the people were saying, "Oh yeah, this used to be a makeout spot." Back when I was a teenager, me and my girl would come up here. But it wasn't the spot we were at. It was further down the track.
Yes.
Which the track, it's a clearing for power lines.
Right.
Am I wrong? Okay. That's why it's this just straight barren
Yeah,
barrenness for miles.
everybody calls it a trail, but it's just to make sure the power lines don't hit trees. Is really
Yeah,
what it is.
because you are in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
Miles and miles and miles. Like you can't even imagine if you're from the Lower Peninsula. So they were saying it used to be further down, but then well, back in the 80s or something, there was this big storm. It got all washed out. It's not safe to go down there anymore, and so
Mhm.
that's why they have the metal railing. So they were saying like, this isn't even the spot. The spot is further down,
Right.
and it would come right up to their cars and like dance around their cars. It wasn't just this light in the distance.
Yeah, it
So
actually moved. Yeah.
yeah, so I wonder, is it the same light? Is the light that we saw or the other people are seeing in the distance, maybe that's from cars, but this other light clearly is not from cars coming
Right.
up, dancing around. And what one person said, it danced along the power lines,
Yes.
which sounds like ball lightning to me, which is incredibly rare.
Right, which in itself is like its own mystery. So that's still
Right.
pretty awesome.
Right. We don't really know what that's about. So, what is the Paulding light? Are there multiple light phenomenons happening here? Is it all the same light? I don't know.
I
And
don't know.
that's what I find so interesting is that there are all these different stories. And
Well,
so
and
what all these guys may be debunking, maybe that's not even the real light.
right. Or maybe they're not in the right spot, or like there's a ton of different things. And I'm on Wikipedia, and I looked up US Route 45, which is the main stretch of road, the only stretch of road that goes past there where the
Mhm.
Paulding Light has been seen. And I wanted to see, first of all, if a highway even existed back when the Paulding Light was first seen, because then I wanted to be like, look,
That's
it's
true.
not car lights. It debuted on Michigan maps in 1935, so it's been there quite some time.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Let me read a little bit. A rerouting in late 1971 moved the US 45 designation along M26 between Rockland and Greenland. From Greenland, US 45 followed Ontonagon Greenland Road to Ontonagon. In late 1973, MDOT reversed the rerouting. US 45 was restored to its previous routing on Rockland Road between Rockland and Ontonagon, and M26 was re-extended south from Greenland and Rockland, M38, blah, 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 blah. So things have changed, not necessarily like directly in that path, but things have changed. And if you go to Google Maps and there's a whole, like you can just search the Paulding Light and it will come up. Like that's how popular this is.
I think that's
Uh,
how we found it.
I think that's how we found it too. You can see there are two different roads. There is the current 45, Route 45, and or US 45, and the old US 45. What
Yes.
you stand along is old US 45, and that's the one that the power lines follow.
Yep. And it followed pretty parallel
Yes.
from what I remember.
Except actually for the length of the distance between the Paulding Light and Paulding itself.
Okay.
So it curves really wide
Oh, I see it.
from Paulding to the Paulding Light, and it doesn't meet that old US 45 until Running Bear Resort, which
Oh
is, I
yeah.
don't know how many miles. I can look that up right now, but
Well, that's pretty far. Hey, they got free Wi-Fi.
right? How come we didn't stay there?
I'm
We
not sure
couldn't
it
afford
existed
it.
back then.
Yeah, or it didn't exist, or there was no way we could afford it. So that is via the current US 45. It's 4.9 miles between Running Bear Resort and the Paulding Light. And
Okay.
using the old US 45, it's 5.5 miles.
Okay. So about roughly 5 miles.
Yeah.
That's a distance
That's a
to be able to
distance,
see
man.
headlights.
And I'm wondering if the differences in what people have seen are the differences in like old 45 versus new 45, current 45,
Hmm.
being part of it, if the rerouting of that part of the highway had anything to do with it. And I would love to know if at that 5 miles away, you could park your car on new 45, where most of the cars would be traveling these days,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and see from the Paulding Light spot.
Well, if you turn on the satellite view,
Yeah.
you can see that straight shot. I mean, it's straight as an arrow,
Yeah.
and then it does curve. That's the thing. I mean, I think that's a driveway actually. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. There's a couple. Yeah.
Like, what are we seeing? Is it where old 45 curves back and then kind of joins up? But also, like, that light was basically steady.
Right. And that
Um,
was going to be like the next point was okay, it's headlights. I don't think there's enough people traveling 45 every single night to
yeah,
have a steady stream of headlights.
especially old 45. Like, really?
Yeah.
And they showed an intersection in the Michigan Tech video, which I know I've shared on our social media. They showed an intersection. It was people stopping. But what intersection was that? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm going to find that video again.
Because I'm following this and it curves before it gets to an intersection that I can see. But I mean, they show you in the video, yeah, look through here, you can see the intersection. Um, he's just standing at the guardrail with the telescope, like,
Right, right, right.
and it's
Yeah.
not a special kind of telescope, not really, that like, you can only access if you're an astronomer. It's just a telescope,
Yeah, they
like
just
probably like one I could check out of the library or something.
right. They probably got it from their library or like their astronomy department.
Right, because they show the intersection, you can see the cars stopping and driving.
Yeah.
But I thought, is there really that much traffic? And it didn't show a straightaway either, where it's like you're seeing these cars coming at you for miles.
Right.
Because the light does sort of grow and shrink and sort of flicker a little bit.
Mm.
It shifts in colors.
It does, and it shifts to colors that aren't on cars.
Well, yeah, because we saw some green
Yeah.
and blue, although blue can be tough because that can also be related to white.
Yeah, blue could be tough,
Um,
especially with like modern LED headlights and
yeah,
things.
if someone's got some halogens, it's going to look different.
Yeah. So I get the changes in different kinds of like white light. That's, sure,
Yes.
that could be headlights, but
And of course, the red would be taillights, but like, are taillights that bright
I
that you
don't
could see
know.
them from miles away? I don't know.
I mean, on a flat road in clear conditions, yeah, I totally believe that you could see those from 5 miles away.
Yeah, if I'm on the highway, yeah, I will see them. But like,
But this is a very hilly area.
yeah,
You're watching it from at the bottom of one hill or at the middle
it's
of one hill.
yeah, it's a bit of a rise, kind of, and
Yeah.
then in front of it, just kind of it goes down and it goes up and down. It's a straightaway, but not in terms of elevation.
Yeah.
So you do lose sight of it if you move forward, and if you go into a little valley, you will lose sight of it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And we did when we started walking, and then there were bears
Yes.
and we had to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone's like, "Oh, there are bears up there. You guys probably want to turn around."
Oh, correct.
We're
Yes,
like,
we do.
oh, yeah, this is the
All
UP.
right.
Oh, bears.
Oh, that's right. Bears live here.
Yeah. I never saw bears, but my parents used to go camping up there quite a bit, and they would have bears come into their campsite.
Yeah.
Dogs went nuts.
Oh, I bet. Either to defend or to play with.
Right. And then my mom was like, hunkered on the ground, like throwing her body over the dogs to keep them so they don't attract the bear. Yeah. It was a very funny image in my head when they came back and told me.
And then there's my dog who would be like, "Oh, giant friend, let's play." All right, should we talk a little bit about like the legends?
Yeah. Because
Um,
I've heard more legends since I started working on this episode.
Excellent.
Because we've been watching a lot of YouTube videos in quarantine.
Yep, that's what you do.
Yeah, pretty much. I never did find out why it was called the dog meadow light. Is that what the meadow? Because you're not in a meadow, you're in the woods. And I've never heard it called the Dog Meadow Light except in things when people are like, also known as. I'm like, but no one actually calls it that.
Right? I'm
Um,
looking for
so I was wondering if that was part of the folklore.
maybe. Excellent. I
Interesting.
have
If
no
anybody
idea.
knows why it's allegedly also known as the Dog Meadow Light, let us know because I'm
Yeah.
very curious. I see that a lot, but I only see it as the also known as. But no, I've never heard anyone actually just call it that.
Right. Well, let's see, there's a Bluff Creek next to it. There's a Beaver Pond, Sucker Creek, which is like a great name for that.
Ugh. Sounds like it has leeches in it.
Right? Matheson Creek, Rock Bluff Falls, Paulding Creek. I have no idea where
Hmm. Interesting.
that comes from.
Well, I can read the most. It's the most popular legend. It's the one I hear the most often.
Yeah.
I'll just read it straight from Wikipedia because they're pretty concise with it. Although stories related to the light vary, the most popular legend involves the death of a railroad brakeman. The legend states that the valley once contained railroad tracks, and the light is the lantern of the brakeman who was killed while attempting to stop an oncoming train from colliding with railway cars stopped on the tracks. Another story claims the light is the ghost of a slain mail courier, while another says that it is the ghost of an Indian dancing on the power lines that run through the valley. According to John Carlyle of the Detroit Free Press, one legend is that it is a grandparent looking for the lost grandchild with a lantern that needs constant relighting, the reason the light seems to come and go. And I have heard some of those later ones on some of the videos I've seen recently, but they're not ones I typically hear. Usually it's the railroad brakeman. That is by far the most popular legend.
Yeah, and then I was watching a video. I was watching my new favorite couple in the world. So I was watching this video that, of course, I can't find now. Excellent. This YouTube series that this lovely retired couple does. They basically drive their RV around the country and talk about myths and legends. It's called Monsters, Myths, and Mysteries of Michigan's UP. And
Oh,
for my wonderful mouth, that is very hard to pronounce. By RV Lifestyle. And
oh,
so they related a myth that's basically the brakeman story, except the brakeman somehow got his head cut off.
I've heard that a lot too, that he lost his head, but no one has ever said like why.
Yeah.
Like that's how he died. I've heard that he um, was killed by being squished when the
Yeah.
two trains collided. Um, I've read that yeah, his head was cut off, which I mean maybe if you're being squished between two trains, but at that point, who cares? You're squished between two trains. Um, I read one that he failed to change the line
Yeah.
and that's why the collision occurred. Like I've heard a lot of different little bits around him, but they all agree brakeman.
Right.
Um, I don't know that there actually has been a railway through there though.
I have no idea. It's so hard to find history of this place.
There is a lot of the history that I learned was from talking to people, and a lot of the stuff on the Wikipedia page it honestly just backs up what they told me. And I don't know that this page existed back then. There wasn't as much online as there is now. It was almost 10 years ago. My God. But I find it interesting. I did hear another kind of version of the Native American that he lost his grandchild, so that's kind of like a coming together of the two.
Okay.
The dancing on the power lines thing, I think the only place I've seen that is Wikipedia, but I find that interesting because all of those people told us that they saw light dancing along the power lines.
Mhm.
Why someone was like, "Oh, that's clearly a Native American," like what? I don't know. I don't know what that's
I
about.
don't know how they jumped to that conclusion, but okay. Yeah.
Super weird. And why would a person be doing that anyway? Like it's just weird. I feel like that is just so weird and random. But it does make mention of what other witnesses told us that there was light coming along the power lines. Which
Right, right.
honestly, the way they're describing it, it sounds like ball lightning.
It really, really does.
Yeah, everything they were saying, I'm like, God, okay, that's ball lightning.
I found the Atlas Obscura page for the Paulding Light.
Oh, that's right. I think we oh, did we find that back then? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure this existed back then.
Yeah, I'm trying like I don't remember. Yeah.
But
Time.
I'm just trying to find any history on the city, on the little like tiny town of Paulding, and we would have to go there again and like ask.
Well, and I remember people like the people who were telling us, "Oh, this was a great makeout spot back in the day."
Yeah.
Um, I remember them saying they used to park at the bridge, and it was the bridge had washed out. That's why you couldn't go down there anymore.
Right.
Um, Now, where this bridge was, I don't know.
I don't know either. Like I can't find anywhere
The way
for
the
there
way
to
it's
have been
configured
a bridge.
now, I don't even know where this bridge would have been. But we were
Oh,
at the
that's
turnoff. They said you used to come in here. This barrier wasn't here. You would drive down. It was really private. Yeah, it was very private. There's nothing out there.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
don't yeah, no worries.
Now maybe it's not such a great makeout spot because all these people come to see the Paulding Light. But certainly back in the day when that barrier wasn't there and this wasn't such a tourist spot, oh yeah, great makeout spot. Absolutely. Bears and all.
Bears and all. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where a bridge would be, and I presume it would be over water, right? Not just like a big dip in the land.
Well, I would think so because they said it was washed out.
Oh, that's true.
So I assume it was over water or very close to water at the very least.
Well, the
Um,
first water that you come to along that route is the Paulding Pond campground, and there's water on both sides of old 45 and current 45.
that's pretty far down the track. You probably
It's
wouldn't
really
turn
far.
off there. Yeah. It also could have been just a flash flood from a really torrential rain and had nothing to do with a river. It could have been a bridge over a ditch. I don't remember whether or not they specified. If you kept following, if that barrier wasn't there and you kept following it, you would have come to a bridge back in the 60s,
Yeah.
70s, and that was where you parked to make out.
But yeah, I really wish that I wish there was more written about
Yeah,
it. And I
yeah,
kind of understand why there's not because it's really way out there. Paulding and Watersmeet are tiny. And it really is like it's kind of obviously it's a visual thing, but it's also like oral tradition.
yeah, yeah. It definitely is. I think that's where it started. Now, could it have started as some teenagers just made up this story and told it amongst themselves and it became this urban legend? Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
absolutely, it could be. And now that just coincidentally there's this light there as well, and other things like ball lightning have popped up, and that just bolstered the tale. Yeah, that could be. I don't know. That's what I find interesting. Like any of the explanations I come up with, I think are all interesting.
Oh yeah. Even if it's not like a ghost light, I'm still super interested in what it's about?
And like that video that I found back when we first went up there on
Mhm.
YouTube that I cannot find, and all I can assume is that has been taken down, was that it was like, yeah, light bending, and you had to be standing at just the right spot, and the light would bend and come around, and you would see the light. So you weren't actually seeing the lights from the highway, you were seeing like how they bent through the air. So like that light you were seeing wasn't where the car actually was. The car was actually over on the highway, and somehow, due to atmospheric conditions, the light bent and you were able to see it from this one position.
Yeah.
That, if that's true, that's cool. Science is
That's
cool.
yeah, that's awesome. Like science got weird with it and I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you probably would need some moisture in the air for that to happen. Um,
Yeah.
and this light is too regular for that. It's the regularity that is strange. So that's why I think there could be something to the headlights thing. It's
Mhm.
just that there just aren't that many, like we were there aren't that many cars.
There's really not. Like we were driving to it and then from it and it was us.
Yeah, like we really didn't encounter many cars. And that was before the sunset. After dark there are going to be even less cars.
Yeah.
And certainly back in the prior decades there would have been even less traffic. So yeah, I just find that interesting. But I suspect, my personal theory is that there are multiple things going on here that we are calling the Paulding Light. So like maybe the Paulding Lights would be a better name. I don't know. I personally
Yeah.
think that there's more than just one thing happening here.
I can see that for sure. Just because it started well after or supposedly started well after cars were in wide use because it's in the 60s.
Yeah.
It could definitely be headlights. It could be, like light refraction from who knows where.
Yeah, I believe it said 45, but
Mhm.
as we've said, there's old 45, there's new 45, so I don't know which one they were referring to in
Yeah.
the video. I wanted to go back and look at it because I thought that was a really interesting explanation.
Mhm.
Cannot find it anywhere. And maybe, I mean, maybe that account expired or they closed it down for whatever reason. The video was removed, or maybe it was debunked and they just took it down. Who knows?
Sure, who knows?
But yeah, I tried and tried and tried and I couldn't find it. Fact or Faked, I thought they did some interesting things. The problem is with them is it's a TV show,
Right.
so I do take that with a bit of grain of salt because they do get a little sensational with it.
Mhm.
But it was interesting that they kept one team at the base, so to speak, where you park your car, where the barrier is, and then two other team members just walked down the track to see if they could walk and actually encounter the light, and they
Yeah.
lost sight of it. So if it was headlights, shouldn't they have still seen them? In fact, shouldn't they have just gotten brighter because they were getting closer? And they went down pretty far too.
They did, and then they ended up taking the ATV down there.
Oh yeah, that's right. So they could go further. Yeah.
And they did the experiment with the car headlights at where they kind of triangulated where the light would be originating from, and the other half of the team at the viewing point couldn't see those headlights. But
They would like turn the car on and off, and they would flash the brights, and the things you do to.
yeah, but these other people, the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters, tried the same thing, and they saw the headlights.
I think tech might have to with the telescope,
Yeah,
but I don't know what their telescope was trained on, and I wish I did.
right. I have the question of, okay, were all of you in like judging from the same origin point?
Yeah, and did they all park at the same spot?
Yeah,
Supposedly, Fact or Fake did block the highway. They got the local sheriffs to block the highway in both directions, so no cars were going.
yeah.
And the people at base still saw a light when they were. And were they blocking the wrong part of the highway? I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
know.
TV show. I mean, they could have been straight up lying.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Or I mean, they certainly sensationalized. I don't know if I necessarily want to accuse them of straight up lying, but they were definitely sensationalizing things, of course.
right. TV is TV, especially in
Yeah.
paranormal TV. You do have to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, the soundtrack was just good gravy.
The soundtrack to that entire show was something
Yeah,
else.
everything was like high energy and stressful, and it was worse than a horror movie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking at all the articles I can about the light, and they all say the same thing.
Yeah, that was the problem I had. Was I found a lot, but it all says the same stuff,
Yep.
which is not helpful.
No, and I'm like, we can't be the first people to want to do deep research on this, right? Like, we can't possibly be the first.
No.
That would be nuts, but apparently we are, and we
Yes.
can't get anywhere either.
And like the people from tech, like they're like, well, we'll just go out there and bring a telescope and see what we see.
Hmm.
And I feel like they can't have been the first people to do that.
Right. Maybe the first people to post it to YouTube.
Didn't some people have binoculars when we were there?
I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, they were not the
Wait,
first people to do that.
didn't we have binoculars when we were there?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, did we bring pause binoculars? We might have brought pause
I
binoculars.
think that we did.
And yeah, all you see is just the trees and the light takes up more of you. Yeah, you're right. I'm pretty sure we did bring pause binoculars.
I'm pretty sure we had them.
I don't know if anyone brought a telescope when we were there, but
I don't think so.
people have thought to do this. People have walked down the track. They've taken ATVs down the track. They've brought binoculars. Like they've looked. So yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I don't know, man, but it's really cool.
It's fun. Like if you're in the UP, I definitely suggest check it out. Bring a telescope, bring binoculars, bring bug spray. Oh, bring the bug spray.
Oh my goodness.
And be prepared to pee in the woods. I was not the only one who peed in the woods either.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, people were bringing beers, wine. I mean, it was a party.
Yeah.
And they came to party. And it was a very festive, jovial atmosphere. And yeah, it was cool.
It was basically, just a group of like 50 of us all just having a blast watching this crazy light down the way and enjoying company with other people that like weird shit.
Yeah. And a lot of locals saying, oh, or I remember there was a guy and his wife, and it was like, oh, we were here in the 70s or something back when we were
Yeah.
dating. And yeah, just a lot of stories. It was fun. I was disappointed we didn't see the lights, come right up. But a lot of people said, oh yeah, some nights they come right up to the barrier.
And that's nuts. And granted, I have no idea if those people were playing with us, but
No.
I would like to believe that they weren't.
Well, and I find like if everyone was kind
Yeah,
of making up stories, that I find a little odd.
right.
But there was the one couple that said, "Oh yeah, we used to go down there in the '60s or whatever, and yeah, we used to make out at the bridge." And someone else was like, "Oh, I remember the bridge."
Yeah,
So if they were all in on it, that's pretty elaborate. And
right, right,
also,
right,
why
right.
would they be putting on this show for us?
I don't know. Yeah, no, you
So
have a very good point.
like some people, yeah, they could have been lying or they could have been exaggerating, but everyone and everyone's saying like, "Oh yeah, I remember that."
Right,
Like, oh gosh, and like going off and they're reminiscing and stuff. It just that's pretty elaborate
right.
for this situation.
No, 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 you're right. Yeah. I'm looking up now the other like mysterious lights that are around the US.
Hmm.
Um probably the most known other than the Paulding Light would be the Brown Mountain lights in North Carolina. And it's kind of the same deal in that a lot of people think they're headlights, but these lights appear essentially just over or at the top of some trees on a mountain in the middle of the mountains. There's not roads there.
Right. At least with Paulding, there are roads.
Yeah.
There are not many roads. In fact,
Yeah.
most of the roads that go through here run north south. You don't find an east west one for several miles.
And then there's the St. Louis light, which is another ghost train light. Oh, St. Louis in Saskatchewan.
Oh,
So basically the same thing, like the headlight of an old fashioned train. Will o' the Wisp comes up.
ah,
This kind of idea, like an Wikipedia describes as an atmospheric ghost light seen by travelers at night, especially over bogs, swamps, or marshes.
mhm.
Guess what's along Old 45?
Yeah,
It's a swamp, guys.
yeah,
Weird. Or a marsh because we're in the north, and that's like another is it paranormal, is it not kind of thing, but it comes from European folklore.
yes, yes. And that could the people who are parked down by this bridge that's no longer there. That could have been what was happening with them. The lights
Hmm.
coming up around their car because I'm assuming the bridge was over water, just given the terrain.
Yeah.
We know that it's a wet terrain. So yeah, that could have been the lights that were coming up to their cars, dancing around their cars that freaked them out.
Yeah.
Um, because that is not. I mean, it's not an uncommon phenomenon, but it's not like every day. I mean, I grew up around bogs, and I never saw them ever.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely have never seen one. Just like I've never seen ball lightning. Just,
Yeah,
just like
no,
I've never
no,
seen a whole bunch of other like really wild and yet perfectly able to be explained by by science
right.
things.
In fact, like, have we seen like ball lightning? Just weird in the human race.
You know what's really strange is maybe like last year, somebody posted a video on Reddit in like one of the weird subreddits I follow, like High Strangeness or something, of this glowing light during a thunderstorm basically passing by her house.
Oh wow.
And it was reviewed obviously by the people of, Reddit. But also, oh, scientists capture the first ever footage of ball lightning. However, it is from the Daily Mail, so we'll see about that.
Yeah. Well, I just saw because I've looked it up online. It's been associated with earthquakes.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
Interesting. Science doesn't seem to know why either. Uh, of course, there are lots of theories, but yeah, interesting. And it's not a super active area, but we do occasionally get earthquakes. Nothing like when people think earthquake. It's nothing like that.
Right,
They're
and that's why I'm like, huh. Well, I'm from the land of earthquakes. I've never seen ball lightning.
Yeah, that too. Which I mean, power lightning is really cool. That's fascinating. If that's what people were seeing, when they're talking about dancing along the power lines, that's cool.
Right?
Super cool. I love it. I would love to see that. Why was it happening? I don't know. And science doesn't really seem to know either. Same with will-o'-the-wisps. Like, we have some solid theories, but I don't know that anyone has come forth and said, "Yep, 100%, absolutely, that is what is happening. We can explain this. We know it. We can anticipate it." I don't think we've reached that point. But I know in the 19th century, we have reports of ball lightning. So this is an old phenomenon. Usually, it was associated with thunderstorms.
Right.
A lot of
Which makes
electricity,
sense.
of course. Yeah, absolutely. And they can get some pretty wicked storms up north too in the UP.
Oh, for sure.
Just around the Great Lakes in general, they can get some pretty nasty storms. And we were there in the fall, end of summer.
We were there in August.
Okay, which is a stormy time.
Yeah, the very end of August.
Certainly is off of Lake Michigan. It's very stormy. Lake Superior is notoriously stormy in November. It's been immortalized in song.
Yeah.
As Wikipedia here says, owing to inconsistencies and to the lack of reliable data, the existence of ball lightning as a phenomenon remains unproven. If what they were seeing dancing in quotes along this power line was ball lightning, like, that's cool. Why?
Right.
Why were they following the power line? And I've heard that before, that it can follow power lines.
Yeah, which I guess makes sense because it both like they conduct electricity. So
I mean, they're insulated, hopefully,
true.
but
Hopefully.
but yeah, that if it's, if there are will-o'-the-wisps and ball lightning is happening in this area and happening often enough that multiple people have witnessed it over time, why?
Yeah.
What's up? I mean, bogs can produce will-o'-the-wisps. Supposedly, I've never seen them, so that's cool.
Right. And
But
then like
then,
the something about the sun with like high levels of moisture as it's setting can create essentially an upside down image of itself in
yeah,
the air, but that doesn't explain after dark.
exactly. Yeah, there are a few things. I know in Fact or Fake, they did a lot of stuff that I was like, having seen the light, I was like, well, that's clearly good on you for being thorough, but that's not it.
Oh
Um,
yeah, same here. I was like, nah.
yeah,
We
like
tried that.
they were like, oh, some people have claimed it's just a low flying plane. And I was like, well, those people have not seen it because it's
Yeah.
clearly not a low flying plane. Um, God, I hope you're not flying your plane that low. That would be terrible.
Yeah, because you're about to crash.
Yes. And that track is not wide enough for a plane. No one
Oh
would be
no,
landing there.
no.
But yeah, they got up in a plane and they flew around, and no, it's not a plane. And they did some other stuff I felt was kind of gimmicky, but like I said, hats off for being thorough, guys. I guess.
Right, for sure.
It is definitely a terrestrial, I guess I'm gonna say, for lack of a better word. It's definitely along the ground, around the ground. Do I think it was a brakeman? That to me smacks of somebody saw a thing and then came up with the story later. That's what a lot of these sound like. Somebody saw a light and were like, "Oh, what was it?" And somebody else was like, "Oh, ha, yeah, it was. I'm gonna make up a story on the spot and tell you, and it's gonna become urban legend now." Like any of these folktale explanations for the light, I think they're just that. They're urban legends. They're folktales. I don't think there's any. I certainly couldn't find any historical basis for them. And I thought that we had read at the time that there had not been a railroad through there, or at least there
I
wasn't.
remember reading that as well. I'm looking it up. I'm looking to see if I can find a map, like old timey railroad maps.
Yeah, I was going over the satellite view on Google Maps, and
Mhm.
I don't see any. Granted, it's a little blurry closer you zoom in, but I would expect there to still be evidence of that if there were a railroad through there.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's fairly close to Houghton. I always look at like, okay, well, what would it be connecting?
Yeah,
It's pretty close to the Wisconsin border. The
it
UP is
is.
very, very skinny. So could there have been a railroad connecting Houghton to Wisconsin? Maybe. I say they probably was at one time, but I don't know.
I mean, in
Yeah.
that case, like I'm gonna say probably because I believe that Houghton, and we should have asked our friends who went to Michigan Tech. I believe there is a railroad
I'm pretty sure. I think we saw it.
through Houghton. I think we
I'm
drove
zooming in
over
on
it.
it now. I mean, certainly up there, it would be very easy to just take a ship. If you were shipping, haha, shipping things, you would use a ship, I would think. If you were trying to get something from like Copper Harbor to Wisconsin, like Duluth is there. I think you would probably just use a ship. I don't think you're gonna mess with a railroad.
Probably not. And it doesn't look like there was. Oh, there's Watersmeet.
Yeah, I'm trying to find like the major cities, Wisconsin cities in that area, and like Duluth is right on the water there. I don't know how big Iron Mountain is, but it does show me Iron Mountain on the map. It also shows me Escanaba, which I know is not a big place, but it is a port.
It's a port, yeah. Well, I found a railroad that does go between Watersmeet and Paulding
Okay.
as of 1900. However, it goes east to west,
Okay. So,
not north south.
and when you're standing there, you're looking north, aren't you?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, because you're
That's where
standing.
the road stops.
Yeah, you're facing towards Paulding from Watersmeet because you're closer to Watersmeet.
I suspect that's why it's called the Paulding Light.
Probably.
So it's not like one town is like the major city.
No, they're both very tiny. So, right, probably where that squiggly line is, where it says Boniface, is probably roughly where the railroad was. But again, east to west, not north to south, and definitely not the direction of the Paulding Light.
Yep.
I could be wrong. Listeners with more experience in the history of the UP, please help. This is research I'm doing as we speak because I just thought to look for railroads.
Well, and a lot of it too is like I mean, you can try looking for death records, but a lot of it's just it's a shot in the dark, and it's a story I just don't think it holds a lot of water.
No, I don't either. Which is totally fine. Like it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be true.
I mean, if somebody does have, oh yes, here's his death certificate, please, I would love to see that. But yeah, I mean, from what I could find, yeah, everything I'm finding is references to the legend, not
Yeah,
actually.
I'm sure it will be. Yeah.
And again, like they just repeat themselves over and over and over again.
Right. That's been my biggest frustration.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see who's the original, but I suspect it's just oral tradition. That's the original, and most people have copied it down, and that's what it is. And usually, when people repeat the same story over and over again, I'm like, okay, well, there's probably not too much here then.
Right. Which I want to get a little weird with it for a second because I've been during quarantine I've been, getting into a slightly weirder side of life that I normally do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Get weird with it.
Yeah, let's get weird. Not like Tenny weird. Sorry, Tenny. No, you know you're weird. You know how weird you are. But just a little bit. So could it be that this group of teenagers or something and enough people saw this light they couldn't explain, and then even after roads had been switched, even after towns had grown, towns had died, whatever, that it could have created the phenomenon that we see just by essentially like a tulpa, just by people believing in it?
Oh yeah, that could absolutely be a thing too. I honestly suspect a lot of things are probably tulpas.
Human belief it can be really strong, as we have learned in the past year, and can create a lot of things, good and bad.
And if enough people put energy into something, like the genius loci. Am I saying that right? I'm not sure. Yeah, like it's enough people put energy into a place that a spirit, so to speak, is created.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I always put forward with crazy wisdom. Like people put so much energy into that place every day. It's people bring in spirituality, and that's what they're there for. It's what draws them to that spot.
Right.
So that could be what's going on in that particular location. Could be happening with other locations too. That one I just happen to be very familiar with. Yeah, if you have enough people with belief coming together, kind of coming together at the Paulding Light, expecting to see something, expecting to see the same thing. Yeah, could they be manifesting something? Could that energy be turning into will-o'-the-wisps or ball lightning or a ball lightning-like thing?
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, people are really powerful. We are incredibly powerful beings. That could be what's going on. It's just, the regularity is what makes me think maybe multiple things are happening. The regularity and just the variety of the stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, the location has changed. It has not always been that spot. That was, I want to say they said the bridge washed out in the 80s. But I can't remember.
I don't even think I would know where to even start looking that up.
Yeah, that's probably not something that's going to be easy to find. I wasn't given the impression it was like a major bridge. I mean, there are bridges everywhere in Michigan. We covered this in the bridge episode.
We did. There's bridges everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. And we're also a fairly hilly place. The UP, it has many gorgeous, beautiful woods and forests, but also mountains, the Porcupine
Yeah.
Mountains up there. So it's a hilly place. It's not flat. Eastern Michigan is somewhat flat, but West Michigan, Northern Michigan, the UP are not particularly flat.
Yeah.
Pretty hilly
Yeah. Yeah.
places. And the Porcupine Mountains are gorgeous. The UP is gorgeous. Just go to the UP. just go and hang out, drive around. It's beautiful.
Paulding Light. I have no idea, but it's really cool.
Yeah, I tell people absolutely, like, yeah, go visit it. Even if you think it's just headlights, like go look. Go see
Yeah.
what you think. Go listen to the stories. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced. I'm gonna say flat out, I think there's more than one thing going on here.
I'll agree with that. I think it's a whole bunch of different phenomena, both
Yeah.
terrestrial and maybe not, just coming together and just happen to find the perfect spot.
But I always find it interesting when, it's like this perfect storm, like all of these things coming together, like, huh,
Yeah.
why? Is this happening in other places and we're not seeing it? We just happen to be seeing it because Paulding Light is known. It's well known. And it's easy to see because you have these like miles of just straight cut through the woods for the power lines.
Oh yeah, it's the absolute perfect spot.
So I'd love to hear what other people think.
So I'm on the Google, when you click on a place and it brings up on the left hand side,
Yes. Yep.
reviews and things. So from a week ago, there's a review that just says, it says 4 stars from a week ago, and in all caps it says, "Why doesn't anyone talk about all the disappearances here dating back over 100 years?"
What? That's the first I've heard of that. Oh yeah.
What?
What?
What is this?
Tell us more.
Who are you, person, and what?
Yeah. Yeah. I've never come across that.
Michigan.
I do want to say I love that the Paulding Light has a travel. What's the travel site?
TripAdvisor.
TripAdvisor. There's a TripAdvisor for the Paulding Light.
Yeah.
I love it. I was looking through a bunch of them because, like I said, we haven't been there since 2011, and it has 4 out of 5. If anyone wants to, it's number 2 of 2 things to do in Paulding.
What's the first one?
I don't know. That's a good question.
That's
We get to Paulding.
Oh, that's number 1 of 1. Sorry, people from Paulding.
Bond Falls.
We were there.
Bond Falls.
Oh, okay.
Which they are beautiful. Maybe that's what washed out this river. I don't know. There's a pretty good picture too if you go to TripAdvisor of the track, and you can see the light in the distance.
Yeah.
And you can see how hilly it is. But yeah, people have said some things. On the Google one, someone said lights came very close, then disappeared. Now, what their definition of very close is, I couldn't say.
I have no idea.
I mean, some people were saying, yeah, like it came like right up to the barrier. Don't be a jerk and park in front of the barrier. That's what one person says. Yeah. Don't sit on your car roof. Yeah, that's a good safety.
I'm so intrigued by this guy's review.
Oh yeah, and there's this one. The review's in 2019, so about a year ago, and it's titled July 1996, scariest trip to see it ever, all caps. And I've been multiple times since. I think this talks about the light coming up closer. Yeah, it talks about how it's white lights, and then that kind of fades into red, and so that would be your headlights, brake lights thing happening maybe. But she says every time the light reappeared, it moved closer and closer. And then someone offered to go around and then do the flash the headlights thing, and she stayed back with her friends. They had a blanket because it's a party.
It's a party. Bring food, bring booze. Not a lot of booze because you drove there.
Okay, so this person says back then, whenever then is, right. She hasn't said. Oh, 96? Okay. Back then, where the creek is now, so there's a creek there. It used to be a ravine with a 1 person at a time walking path across it. Okay, so they walked across this looking for the light. The vehicle kept sporadically flashing their lights to tell us they could see us, but we didn't see them. She says we didn't, but I'm saying we didn't see them.
Mm-hmm.
After about a half hour or so, we headed back to our vehicle. We got to the ravine, and I decided to go across first. I made it about a quarter of the way across the path when all of a sudden, my friends told me to stop. I stopped and asked them what was up. Why did I need to stop? They told me the red light was to my left in the ravine. I froze. Not even a second after they said that, a small ball of bright white light jumped onto the walking path, not even 3 feet in front of me, blocking my way across. The temperature went from around 70 degrees to it was so cold we could see our breath. I freaked out, backstepped till I reached my friends. Within a few moments, the light disappeared again, and we hightailed it back up the hill to our vehicle. People in the vehicle said they had just seen the light bigger, brighter, and closer to them than it had been all night. Been there multiple times since and have never had another experience like that.
Weird.
Yeah. And that's kind of in the vein of some of the stories we were hearing when we were there of, making out in the car, right back when you could drive down there. And clearly the terrain has changed because like people we talked to said the terrain had changed, this bridge had washed out. This person is saying in 96, you used to be able to go across the ravine, now you can't. There's a creek there. And we know that the roads have changed, as you said in kind of the top of the episode.
So essentially what I'm kind of gathering from all of these different testimonies about this light is that it's personal.
Yeah.
It does something different for every group of people that's there. Maybe not every group, but like it does something different for a lot of different groups of people that have visited over the decades.
Yep. Sounds like it. Because, this was 96. That's pretty recent. The folks we talked to, they were talking 60s, 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all of their stories were 70s.
This person says, I don't know, again, they don't know when this was. They posted it in 2018, but it says, I was 19 and visiting with 3 friends from Rhinelander. We saw the light. It was unbelievable. We felt like it hovered around our car and then chased us to the highway and turned bright red.
Oh my gosh.
Again, I mean, could these people be lying? Yeah. But there are certain things who people who don't believe tend to say that I feel like give them away. Because there's a certain understanding that people have that are in the kind of paranormal community that people who are outside of it don't. They don't know the vocabulary. They don't know how things, supposedly function. They just make shit up that sounds really wild. So I feel like when people make stuff up, they often kind of give themselves away in that way. Like the movie Paranormal Activity gives itself away. They got a lot of things that I was like, yeah, that is exactly what people say happens in haunted houses. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were like other things that kind of gave it away as well. This is clearly. And whenever I say that to people who aren't believers, they're like, well, how do you know? How do you know it wasn't real? I'm like, because I've read countless books on this phenomenon.
You're like, look, this is what I do. Like,
I've heard countless stories, and none of these stories that I've heard match up with what's shown in the movie.
Right.
Do they do a really good job of making it look like a haunted house? Yeah, absolutely. But then it like jumps the shark, I guess, at a certain point.
Yeah. Well, it's a horror movie.
Right, exactly.
All right. Well, I don't know. I think that might be it. We might have exhausted everything that we can.
Yeah, it's fun. I definitely suggest people like go to TripAdvisor and read some of the stories. It's fun. Everyone says it's fun. No one says, "Oh, this is bullshit," or whatever. Like no one is angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's people are having a good time. I would say maybe don't go there in winter, just because it's going to be very cold.
Yeah.
Probably icy, snowy. Not as safe as going in the summertime. So yeah, if you're gonna go in the summer, but yeah, bring bug spray. Bring some drinks, bring some snacks.
Hang out.
Bring a telescope, bring binoculars. Be prepared to pee in the woods. Yeah, have fun with it. Do it. It's fun. Absolutely, it's fun.
It's so much fun. All right. In conclusion, who knows what it is?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, my personal belief is that we've got multiple things happening here.
Oh,
It's not just headlights. There could be headlights involved, perhaps. Since they had that telescope trained on an intersection that they could see from I'm going to call it the lookout point. That was clearly aimed at something, but without actually being there, I don't know what he actually was looking at. It was just, they showed you, well, here's the telescope all set up, and if you look through here, you can see this intersection, and you can see some cars go by. That was it. And when you're watching that on a video, it's not super helpful. I would have liked to see, like, okay, where is it angled? What are you looking at? What's the intersection? Like, what am I looking at?
The video it wasn't long enough.
No, it's like a 2-minute something. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not very long. And they weren't doing like an in-depth kind of thing. It was just kind of a fun thing I think a professor was doing with his students. They didn't look too far into it. They literally just set up a telescope, saw cars, and called it good. They didn't investigate these claims of, light dancing on the power lines. They didn't investigate these, lights actually coming up to people, coming up to cars. They didn't look into any of that.
Right.
They just set up a telescope. That was it.
And then a whole lot of articles took that for the end all be all, because I was reading a few just now, and it's like, the now disproven or the now like explained Paulding Light, and it would refer to the Michigan Tech thing. And I'm like, but they didn't, but they did one experiment.
Right. Like, what about all the other stories?
They did one. Let's do multiple.
Yeah. So that's what kind of bugged me out that, and you're right. People took it as like, oh well, it's explained. There you go. That's what it
Yep.
was. Like, wait, so
Wait.
headlights were dancing along the power line?
Yeah.
Like, how did the car get up there? That's weird.
Like, we need to do a lot more experimenting with this, guys. Like, we're not done.
Yeah. And there was some guy in a tiny car that was zooming around other cars while the teenagers were making out at the bridge. Like, I
Right.
think they would have noticed if it was some guy in like an ATV with a headlamp. I think they would have figured that out.
I agree.
So yeah, there's stuff here that people haven't much investigated. Certainly Fact or Fake tried, but it's
Yeah.
a TV show, and I'm sorry, I take it with a grain of salt, just by virtue of you being a television show. So yeah, that's the Paulding Light. Go check it out.
Yeah, that's the Paulding Light.
If anyone else has any theories on what it could be or stories that they've heard, I'd love to hear them, because I it's such a beloved, I would
Yeah.
say, part of Michigan folklore, especially in the UP, because like so many people were aware of it up there. And honestly, I was expecting when we went up, if we mentioned it, I was going to expect people to be kind of like disgusted with us for, oh God, these damn tourists coming up here trying to
Oh,
see
yeah.
damn light in the woods. But
Yep.
no, I felt it was very much the opposite. It was a beloved story. People were pretty good natured about it. They're like, yeah, you don't know what it is. Could it be headlights? I don't know. I've had some really weird experiences I don't feel are explained by headlights. So yeah, some people I'm sure are certainly annoyed by it, but I expected a lot more people to be annoyed than turned out to be.
I was definitely very nervous about saying the real reason we were there. Like, the real reason we were in the UP was to take our like whirlwind ghost tour, essentially, is what we did. Yeah, and everybody was just like, "Oh yeah, the Paulding Light. Like, this is, it's our mascot almost."
Yeah, it's very well known, and it seems to be like a beloved little thing. They were very open to it, and I wonder if that does kind of come from that culture of like kind of a rugged culture where I mean, you are kind of away from civilization a little bit. Your
Oh
main
yeah.
connection is the ocean. Lots of people who live by, well, not the ocean, the lake, but a lot of people who live by water tend to be kind of superstitious. So
Well,
yeah,
it's
and also
so
it's fairly kind of religious area too, because it
yeah.
is sort of an older culture that has kind of been maintained, unlike
Yeah.
some places more around Detroit where it's much newer and modern and things are changing and evolving.
Yeah. And I mean, with the industries that were up there, like logging, like lumberjacks and stuff
Logging,
have their own whole like pantheon
yeah,
of crazy monsters.
and
And
miners are very superstitious. So yeah, you have a lot of those superstitious cultures up there: mining, shipping, lumberjacks. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's a very friendly place. I Every time I go up there, everyone is just so friendly and open, and yeah, it's great.
all right, well, I think that's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Kellawin for his great, awesome music that we use as our intro. Thanks to Eric Honke for the cleanups that he does on our podcasts, which he makes them sound nice and pretty and makes us sound nice and pretty. He is available for hire if you would like to make your stuff sound wonderfully pretty. We can get you in contact. Should we talk about Patreon?
I'm working on Patreon. I have it up right now. I'm hoping to record some stuff soon, which it will be up before this airs. But we've got some good ideas for content in mind, so you can definitely check us out
Well, then go check out our Patreon. We have one.
for $1 per month.
Look up
You will
Haunted
have access
Mitten.
to bonus material.
Yes.
We are not asking for a lot of money right now, though it would be nice to make this self-sufficient at the very least. That is my first goal, is to make the podcast self-sufficient.
Yeah, that would be great. And
So
that'd be amazing.
we're starting
Uh
out small, just $1 a month. You'll have access to bonus material. I would
yep.
like to have scripts ready. I've started some work on that. What turned out transcribing was a little more difficult than I thought it was going to be, though I did figure out some tricks. So hopefully I'll have transcriptions up there, some bonus material. We want to record some spooky stories for people. We were brainstorming today, so yeah, we'll have some stuff up there by the time this launches.
Absolutely.
By the time season 2 is ready.
Yeah, go check us out. Buy our book. We have a book coming out called Fairy Tales Punked.
Yep, check it out. It's good times. I'm really excited to share it with everyone. I helped proof it, so I've read every story in it, and it's fun. There's some
Yes.
dark stories. It's definitely darker than Queen of Clocks. Queen of Clocks was kind of more fun. There's a dark tale in it. For the most part, it has a lightheartedness to it that Fairy Tales Punked is. It gets kind of dark.
Yeah.
It's a good balance, but it definitely goes darker than Queen of Clocks did, and I love it.
It's
It's
good.
fantastic. I'm here for all of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not
So
just steampunk. There's diesel punk, there's clock punk, all kinds of stuff. It's great. It's a really good collection. And it has pictures.
okay. So thanks for listening. And as always, happy haunting.